The last few weeks have possibly been the craziest in modern financial history. Right now, the economy is completely disaster. The stock market is about to come crashing down. Economic crash is trending on Twitter. Trillions of dollars have been wiped out of the housing market. For millions of people, the cost of living continues to rise, and the Fed's chairman has basically told them to go hide in bunkers. And despite what Joe Biden previously stated,
by the way, the stock market's gone up exponentially since I've been president.
The truth is more like this. Because the stock market has just taken one of the biggest hits in the history. Many financial leaders have stopped predicting a crash and have instead stating that it has already occurred. So, what the hell is going on right now, and are we living in history, or has this predicted financial crash already begun? Let's figure this out together and see what you can do to prepare for what's to come. Hey viewers, welcome back to Finance Insights. In today's video, we've covered a very important topic that each one of us needs to be aware of. But first, a brief recap of what has brought us to this point. We made a video a few weeks ago about how a financial crash could be on the way and how prominent financial figures predicted the economy would tank later this year. Michael Burry, for example, predicted that by the end of 2022, we would begin to see signs of economic collapse. According to Jeremy Grantham, a crash would be devastating due to the wide range of asset classes involved. And to be fair, Robert Kiyosaki has been saying that we are on the verge of a crash of a lifetime for more than a decade. The mainstream narrative at the point was that we shouldn't pay attention to these predictions. The economy, according to Fed Chairman Jerome Powell, is in good shape. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen described inflation as a transitory and easily controllable, and Elon Musk compared Michael Burry to a broken clock, one of many who suggested that he shouldn't be paying attention to. So, even though the global economy appears to be in good shape, the general consensus was that we should just carry on as usual, because everything would be fine in the end. So, how have these predictions fared a few months later? Unfortunately for us, it appears that the numbers aren't looking so good, and it appears that we have only just begun to go wrong. Things have taken a turn for the worse in the last few weeks. The stock market fell to its lowest level in 2022, wiping out more than 20% of its total value, or approximately $9 trillion in wealth from American households. And we experienced the single largest day of financial losses in recent years, prompting the stock market crash to become one of the top trends on Twitter. It also recently announced that credit card interest rates would reach their highest level in over 2 decades, and that inflation in the Eurozone had just reached 10%, the highest rate ever recorded. To top it all off, the Russian stock market as a whole crashed. As a result of all this, many people believe we have just entered the early stages of a major financial downturn. And this time, it's not just the fringes who believe something is seriously wrong. Janet Yellen has retracted her statement about inflation being transitory, saying she now regrets it. And as for Jerome Powell, he's now saying that we should hope for the best while planning for the worst. So it appears that the tables have turned and there is no longer any way to avoid the financial storm that we may have just entered. But there is another side to this story. It has everything to do with real estate. Essentially, the entire global real estate market has become inflated over the last 2 years. House and rent prices in some countries have risen at astronomical rates. Property prices in Australia, Canada, and the United States have risen by up to 25%. Rent in Argentina's capital, Buenos Aires, have risen by more than 60% per year. In Turkey, house prices increased by more than 170% in a year. But, as the saying goes, what goes up must come down, and banks are betting big that the housing market too is about to crash. Recently, Goldman Sachs, one of the world's largest banks, predicted that housing prices would plummet, predicting that a major housing crisis will be wiped up to 21% of the value of real estate in places like Canada, Australia, and New Zealand over the next year. And similar to what we are seeing in the stock market, there are already signs that we have entered the early stages of this crash. Housing prices in the United States have just dropped at the fastest rate since the 2008 housing collapse, and it is also the second largest drop in prices in the last century. Real estate values have already dropped by multiple percentage points in Australia, the United Kingdom, and Canada. In New Zealand, house prices are already falling by $10,000 per month on average, lending credence to Goldman Sachs' earlier prediction. To cut a long story short, it appears that the fear of a housing and real estate market crash is already becoming a reality. And here's the thing, it's not as frightening as you might think, and there are also some important lessons we can draw from what's happening so far leading up to this crisis. So with us on the verge of a crash, there are two things we can learn from this situation, and both are the results of looking back in time, when things like this have happened before, and the first is knowing who to listen to in this situation. It's human nature for most people to want to save their own skin when large sums of money are at stake. Many people in finance had known for months, if not years, that we're in for a severe economic downturn. So why would they downplay the gravity of what many others could see coming? For many people like Yellen and Powell, their reputation as economic leaders of the United States was on the line. And it's possible they didn't want to admit things were really this bad until it was impossible to hide, because many people would undoubtedly blame them for contributing to the creation of this situation in the first place. For billionaires like Elon Musk, admitting Burry was correct about the stock market could have had a negative impact on Tesla's share price, creating fear that could have led to people selling their stocks and jeopardizing his company's financial security. It's important to consider someone's motivations, especially when they're telling you what to do with your money or telling you there is nothing to worry about, even if the financial landscape appears to be dire. That concludes lesson number 2. And that is about keeping certain things in perspective. Even if it appears that a crash is imminent, there have literally been dozens of financial crashes in the last 100 years of human history. Times when the economy was destroyed and people collectively lost billions of dollars. But keep in mind that we have already come out on the other side. A recession or downturn can also be a great opportunity to build wealth if you are prepared. As the price of assets such as a real estate falls, it can make it more affordable for many people to purchase. And if you have a good credit score, recession can be a great time to leverage debt, as lower demand for borrowing usually lends to lower interest rates. That is, if you are prepared, a financial crisis does not have to be a bad news. In fact, this could be the time to start preparing for the future financial success. Only time will tell if the signs we're seeing now are the beginning of a larger financial crash, which appears to be the case, which means that, for the most part, we are at a crossroads, deciding whether we are going to ride this thing out as a victim, allowing what's happening to dictate our financial security, or whether we are going to get educated and study for the multitude of examples of past crashes and collapses, and the steps people have taken to come out better than others, or better yet, the steps people have taken to become extremely wealthy during these times. So what are you going to do? We have decided how we will ride our way through this wave. The question is, have you? That comes to the conclusion of today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch. If you like this video, you might also enjoy Burry's prediction about how this crash would unfold. It's currently on your screen and you can watch it by clicking here. Also, make sure to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on our next video about the massive real estate crash that has already begun. We'll see you in the next one. Until then, peace out!